Yes, and some of us drove over 6 hours here to get here.
Thanks for coming.
So welcome to the first show of 2025. It's our signature show of the Northwest Pastel Society. And thank you, Kathy, for continuing to host us.
Yes.
I don't know how many
This
years.
is our 14th year, so.
Really?
Yeah. Last 22 years, we've had 14 shows, so. Yay. Thank you.
So as a reminder, this is our signature show. And so these are seasoned artists here. And a signature show means that only signature members can enter. And the definition of a signature member is that you have to be accepted into one of our international exhibitions at least 3 times. And I don't know if, maybe Sarah might know, how many signature members we have currently? It is growing though. It is growing.
It's over 100. I'm pretty sure it's over 100.
So anyways, I am very excited to introduce our juror for this show, Mitch Albala, who you all know as an award-winning landscape painter, a workshop instructor, and author. As you know, he's known for his light-filled and atmospheric landscapes and that have been nationally exhibited and represented in both corporate and private collections. And he is the author of not only a popular blog that you can find on his website, but 2 best-selling books on landscape painting. Landscape Painting, Essential Concepts and Techniques for Plein Air and Studio Practices, that was published in 2009. And then another book, his latest book, that was published in 2022, the Landscape Painter's Workbook, which I use religiously in all of the classes I teach. And it is currently the #1 selling book on landscapes in the nation.
Wow.
He's writing another book.
Just one second. Mitch has taught in various art institutions, starting back in the 80s, and I didn't realize this until today, but in the late 80s, he was an instructor at a New York State University, FIT. And it just so happens he was there the exact same years I was there.
Really?
But we didn't know each other then, and wouldn't have that been fun? Over the last 35 years, he's been an instructor at the Art Institute of Seattle. He's lectured at the SAM, the Seattle Art Museum, at various local community colleges. He's been a staff member for almost 20 years at Gage Academy, and he taught at the Pacific Northwest Art School on Whidbey Island for over 14 years. Currently, he teaches at Dakota, and he offers online classes covering painting, drawing, mixed media, and various composition and design techniques at Winslow Art Center and at mastrius.com. So do not let his height disillusion you from his abundance of knowledge.
It's all relative.
And wisdom that he has on the subject. In fact, he is working on his 3rd book. So without further ado, let me give the floor to our fellow Northwest Pastel member, judge, juror, author, instructor, and artist, Mitch.
Thank you. Absolutely the best introduction I've ever gotten. So, okay. A couple of opening remarks. I guess they're requisite when you're jurying a show. You have to acknowledge how incredibly difficult it is. I was making changes down to the last minute, and truly, if I could have given out another 15 honorable mentions, I absolutely could have. And so when you get down to your selections and then you've got to rank them, it's kind of an impossible choice. I mean, you get 3 other jurors in here, they probably would not rank them in the same order. And this is kind of humbling because I've been a member just for this group for 3 years, and then they've asked me to jury the show. So kind of like, wow, okay. And I take that seriously because, I have to look at all your artwork and make decisions about it. And this gentleman over here said, I came because I want to hear you say something about why you picked these paintings. And I'm going to. I'm an instructor, and I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss that a little bit. There's a method to my madness, so to speak. All right. What are the other requisite things that I must comment on?
Is there a criteria of
how
you jury the show?
Yeah. So first thing, obviously, it's going to have good pastel technique. That just almost goes without saying, but there I just said it. All right. But for me, the paintings that do more than just the paintings that do more than just depict pretty subjects, but actually present things in a new way, that give me a new spin on the world. Like the artist is really interpreting this in a different way. And you'll see, I'll mention this when we get to them, but some of the selections very clearly do that. And so I'll explain my reasoning, but for me that's the biggest thing, getting me to see the world through new eyes. And another thing that I'm very, now there's not much abstract work here, there's one abstract piece, but another thing that I really appreciate about work is when I can transcend the subject, which means when I look at it, I'm not saying, oh, that's such a lovely tree, and oh, look at that lovely pond. It's like, oh my, look at the color on that, behind those trees, and like, oh, look at all that broken color, and what look at the movement. Those are the kinds of things that I want to engage with, right? Now, of course, you can have the pretty pond and the pretty trees and engage with those things, and of course, then you're firing on all cylinders. But when I can focus on an aesthetic, some kind of visual appeal that's beyond the subject, that's when I really kind of get excited. So that's my preamble about kind of what I was thinking of when I was going through here. Okay, are we ready to start doling out the goods?
We're going to start from this, from the
We're
bottom.
going from the bottom and work our way up. Okay. So the first one, this is one of two honorable mentions, goes to Moonlight by Jane Bucola. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Yeah, it's about the moonlight. But when you look at this, especially if you look at it from a distance, what do you get? Big splashes of basically two zones of color. This kind of lightish yellow-green, and then this blue. So that's the first impression. Then we get a little closer, and we might feel this stair-stepping, some movement. And then we get a little closer, maybe, if we're really lucky, the third thing we get is like, oh, it's some kind of still life or interior. I don't say this in a pejorative sense, but that's the least important thing about this painting. The important thing is what we're hit with when we first look at it. A visual apprehension is kind of like ooh, and that's kind of why I chose this, because it transcended the subject. All right? Good. All right, that takes care of that one. Only fitting that she puts it up.
We know who did that one.
All right. This painting should get a prize just for the title.
Yeah.
It's called Outstanding in His Field. So I just had dinner with Deb, and I don't do animal art. I don't know much about animal art. But you have to admit that this cow is monumental, right? And that's kind of the thing. Now that's probably the primary thing. It takes guts to it's not exactly center, but it takes guts to center something. And if you do it right, or if you do it wrong, it looks like they made a compositional mistake. If they do it right, it's like it becomes monumental. So that was the first thing I noticed. And the second thing is, well, you gotta admire that halo. Right? So that's one of those aesthetic things that you really can appreciate. about a representational painting. And the third thing, which I couldn't see until I arrived today, is the technique is freaking fantastic. It's just incredibly beautifully executed. I mean, it's flawless. It's just gorgeous. So, A+++ there. So, excellent masterpiece. I want to make a moo sound, but I won't.
Nice.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. All right. Remember the title?
Water rhythms.
Water Rhythms. Not quite as innovative as the other cow painting, but it's a nice title. Okay.
What's the title?
Water Rhythms.
Oh,
Okay. So, getting back to my aesthetics, I saw this one online originally, and really small. It just grabbed my attention. It looks way better in person, but it grabbed my attention because of one word, and it's perhaps my most favorite word in art making, and the one I'm forever using in my classes, and the word is simplicity. So landscape painters need to simplify, as you can just look around and see here. They're not painting every detail. But this is my thesis. You could go to the bank with this. That when things get reduced down to a certain level of simplicity, your brain responds to it in a different way. Like when you go up to a painting full of detail, say, or lots of visual information about the landscape, you appreciate that. That's registering in certain areas of your brain. A painting like this doesn't have that little bit, that level of detail. All you're getting is sort of this kind of sensation. And I've done a lot of teaching around this, and people really do respond to paintings like this differently than they do to ones that are very complicated. Similarly, there's an abstract painting around the corner. People respond differently to abstract paintings than they do to representational paintings. So that's the primary driver, for my selection here. And shapes. It's all about the shapes. When I sign my book, sometimes I go, "It's all about the shapes," and then I write my name. So congratulations. Good job.
Oh, yeah.
All right, this comes right on the heels of the other side of the coin that I was just talking about. This one, I had to acknowledge. Oh, by the way, this is
Bithia Bjurman.
It's called Welcome Splash. She's not here?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. So, different part of the brain being activated here. There's more of a story, obviously, with the pouring of the wine. And I wish she was here because I would like to pick her brain, and I'd like to ask her, how the hell did you do that? Because I just can't imagine handling pastels that way. But then again, if you know my work, it's not detailed at all. But still, you've got to appreciate that level of visual activity. And you'll respond to it. Like I think I even heard some audible sounds when it came out because you respond to it in a certain way. But again, it's very different than how you might respond to an abstract piece or how you might respond to a super simplified painting or a painting that was filled with color. They're like almost like there's response centers in our brain, and different paintings activate different response centers. And that's why you love one painting and she loves another and I love another, because there are certain response centers being activated in our brain. So you've got to appreciate that response center, whatever that response center is really lighting up for all of us. So congratulations to Bithia. So all the first, second, that's first, second, and third, right? Or is it best of show, second and third? It's first, second, and third?
First is best of show.
Okay,
Yeah.
so best of show, second, and third. They're all paintings that I will add the moniker to. I wish I'd done that, right? That's like the highest compliment that I could pay to a painting. So this one, you know, the first word I wrote down in my notes was striking, right? And there's many ways to do pastel, like the one we just saw from Bithia. She's using it a bit differently than Janice is. But to me, I feel like the boldness of the mark making is kind of using pastel the way pastel was intended to be used. And it's words that come to mind are like luscious and delicious. And I think this is a little different than some of her other work. It's a little more splashy, and the color is just really, really exciting. Also, just from a semi-technical standpoint, in terms of color, which I also teach on, she's doing something very clever here. I would imagine it's intentional, but notice she's got all these bold, bright, saturated colors, and they're surrounded by much more neutral, less intense colors. That makes the bold, saturated colors feel that much more saturated, and it makes the neutral colors more special. So there's a little bit of a clever balancing between saturated and neutral here that's giving this an extra boost. Also, ever since I've been studying the Russian Impressionists, who always managed to inject a little bit of white into their paintings, which I think is kind of a difficult thing to do. Like, I don't do it because, well, it doesn't feel like a color to me. But when somebody could pull off putting a little bit of white in there and not having it look like a hole or just a white piece of paper, I think that's a pretty cool ability. And it's essentially subtracting color from just a few spots, but having it read like the brightest light possible. I think that's a real trick. So congrats to Janice on that one. All right. It's Kathleen Seacrest. It's called Alternative Space. Second place, second prize. Again, I really appreciate, I think it's the only, there are some paintings in here that are a little bit abstract, but this one goes full bore on the abstraction. And again, there's that part of a different part of our brain being activated. And this one does something that a lot of the other ones don't do in terms of how I'm absorbing the painting. So first I'll say extra credit for doing abstraction, because many of us in this group don't do that, so that's great. And like I find myself, like I'm curious, like where did this idea come from? Like, how did you come up with this? Like, what's up with that, sharp edge there? Why that line? I guess that sort of is the artist inviting me, or making me curious about what they were thinking, what they were doing, and what does it mean? Is it taken from anything? And is it just pure imagination? And so you see, those kinds of questions are evidence that this is appealing to a different part of my brain. And you can appreciate it just on that level. The colors, again, bright saturated colors against neutral colors, that's a pretty smart move. A pretty tight color set. Blues, a lot of blues, pale blue greens, and a little bit of an accent. That's a good strategy. And there's some nice movement there too. So really, one of the mistakes that people make about doing abstract painting or evaluating it is they think that because it's abstract, that anything goes. And that is like totally not the case. Like, all the good things that this painting is doing in terms of the aesthetics, color, movement, shape, design, all the other paintings we just looked at also do it. But you've got to be sure to still do it in abstract work, because if you don't have that, you don't have anything, right? So it really kind of works on multiple levels. Okay, congratulations to Autumn Haze by Deborah Henderson. First thing I'll say is, I wish I'd done that. So obviously, it's a beautiful landscape, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points here. This is a painting that fires on all cylinders, right? And so like cylinder one, one cylinder is temperature. I've been studying a lot about temperature and really examining it in detail, in depth in other paintings. Gorgeous, I call it temperature differentials. I mean, the subtleties of the mist in the distance, all that cool and bracketed by this warm. That's a big temperature differential. And even within the trees, I don't know if you could pick this up, notice the warmth here, and then the shadows, they get a little more neutral, and they get a little cooler. Value change, temperature change, hue change, they're different colors, and there's a saturation level change. That's like the key to turning forms with color. So that's really gorgeous. And the composition is also quite lovely. Notice how the foreground is activated. It's not just a flat plane or an upright plane. We move that line. I would bet if you looked at the reference to this, I bet that little track wasn't there. She put it in because she knew that, I'm mind reading now. She put it in because she knew that foreground needed to be activated in that way. It's just a delicious combination of colors. And of course the technique, as I said, it goes without saying, is pretty gorgeous. Notice that little violet tree over there, just kind of standing on the end. A beautiful little surprise off to the left. You could live with this painting. You could get up every morning, take a look at it in the morning light and go, and in pancakes. It's pretty nice.
Give me the
So
coffee.
congratulations to Deborah Henderson. What a painting. Okay, what else? I guess that's a wrap.
That's the show.
All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mitch.
Feel free to mingle. There's refreshments and food here before the First Friday crowd comes. And usually it is pretty packed
Really?
on Fridays in this town, or at least
That's
I've
good.
experienced that. And take a look and savor and soak in all the different things that are here.
Thank you.